All right, sound check. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending where you're joining from. Welcome to Amelia's AI Recreation webinar, where today we're going to be looking at what the data is really saying. We're happy to have you all here. My name is Michael, account executive here at Amelia, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. While we wait for others to join, I see there's some trickling in. Let us know where you're joining from. Use the chat. Let us know your name of your agency. It'll give us an opportunity at the same time to test out the chat, make sure things are coming correctly, everything is working perfect. I see already some coming in. Hello, hello. Wonderful. Love it. All right, moving things along, couple housekeeping items to that I'll quickly go over. In terms of audio, we have it all sorted, not to worry. You'll automatically be muted, so nothing to worry about there. In terms of how you can access the webinar, of course, by computer or phone. If you want to connect in by phone, you can absolutely do so. So a couple options there for you. And in terms of submitting questions, chat. I see the chat is working correctly already. Love the all the messages coming through. We also have the Q&A function. So at the bottom of the screen over in Zoom, they give us the ability to do a whole Q&A section. Post your questions there. I will be monitoring them and we'll be shouting them out. And as well, we'll have a separate Q&A period towards the end. We've gone over the chat. And last but certainly not least, there will be a post-session feedback survey that will be sent to you. So we want to know, what you thought about the webinar, what you loved, what you want to see more of, and let us know for maybe future topics that we would love to share and cover in the future. Brilliant. So moving things right along. Just set up the agenda for today before we kick things off. I'm quickly going to go through what we have planned. So we're going to begin with a short introduction of our panelists. Then from there, Inez will kick things off with a practical look at AI and what it actually means for organizations like yours. From there, Andrew will take things away and talk to you about some of the common challenges we're seeing across Parks and Rec. And then Inez will pick things up again and highlight the gaps that really matter right now. And we'll kick things over from Andrew from there and wrap up a short sharing on how agencies are making real progress in the communities. And like I said, we'll have time for a Q&A towards the end of the webinar. All right, so I'll pass things along. First and foremost, Andrew, a quick hello from you.
Good morning, good afternoon, folks. My name is Andrew. I'm a product marketing manager here at Amelia. A big part of what our team does is gather context from the market and from customers as to main pain points and challenges, future needs, that sort of thing. Also, we could inform a customer-driven product strategy. And so that's a little about me. I will hand it over to my teammate Ines to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ines. I'm a product marketing manager at Amelia. I joined the company about 4 months ago, and I focus on shaping the go-to-market strategy and product positioning across accounting solutions, AI-powered features, member management tools, and Amelia University. And I'm really looking forward to today's webinar and connecting with you all. Pass it over to Tyler.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Lockwood. I'm a Parks and Rec professional and innovative team leader here with the City of Escondido, who's built a career on onboarding new technology to drive workplace efficiency. So I'm happy to speak with you all about it and my experience working with AI.
Amazing. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. We have a great panel here today. So before we jump in, last thing from me, I promise, wanted to hand things off, but if for those who are unfamiliar with Amelia and SmartRec, we partner with Parks and Rec agencies to power online registration platforms. Whether you're signing up for camp, renting a facility, buying a membership, or anything really in between, we have you covered, mainly providing an easy to use experience for residents and staff alike. With that being said, I will kick things over to begin with Ines. Ines, are you able to do?
Sorry. Thank you, Michael. So we're going to take a look at AI here. We know that technology moves fast, new tools appear quickly, expectations change, and AI is increasingly part of how people search, decide, and get support in their everyday lives. What we wanted to do first was step back and take a look at the reality, not the assumptions. So in this research, we saw that familiarity with AI is already high on both sides. Many community members are using AI regularly, and most professionals are at least somewhat familiar with it as well. At the same time, actual adoption inside organizations is still limited and readiness varies widely. Confidence isn't about whether AI exists, it's about where it fits and where it doesn't. So the real questions we heard weren't should we use AI? They were where does AI genuinely help families? Where does it support staff without introducing risks? And what are these expectations and what can we look forward in those systems? So this session exists to look at those gaps between familiarity and adoption, expectations and readiness, using real input from both community members and recreation professionals. And one thing the research made clear is that there's real pressure building around AI adoption in the industry. Many organizations feel they should be doing something, even when it's not clear what that something is. This session isn't about adopting AI for AI's sake. It's about challenging ourselves to ask the right questions. Are we solving the right problems? Are we supporting people, families, and staff in ways that actually matter? So this research has helped shape Amelia's approach to AI around that same idea. Progress should be intentional, people first, and aligned with real needs, not driven by trends and pressure. And as we reviewed the research, a few themes kept surfacing, and they've shaped how we're thinking about AI overall. First, it pointed us to asking better questions, where AI actually makes an impact, where people want it, and where trust matters most. Second, it reinforced the importance of focusing on outcomes, not AI features, but the real tasks and decisions that create value for organizations, staff, and communities. And finally, it highlighted that AI works best when it's applied selectively, supporting complexity where it exists, while leaving simple, intuitive experiences alone. You'll see these ideas show up repeatedly as we walk through the data and talk about what it means in practice. I'll pass it over to Andrew for the question here.
Okay, folks. So before we get into the actual research, we're going to put a poll in the chat. And so you all will get a chance to answer this question. But Tyler, if you have thoughts on this, please feel free to chime in as well. And the question for you all is, where is your organization's AI used today? So there's four options. Either you're not using AI in any capacity, you're doing some informal experimentation. There is limited use, so that there are use cases you're actively using it for today. Or you might have an active strategy where you're embedding it into different operations across your organization. So please use the poll to let us know. And as I mentioned, Tyler, if you have thoughts, chime in as well.
Yeah, certainly. So, as you all are kind of considering where your organizations are at, the city of Escondido has certainly been through every phase of this within the last couple of years. We went from just learning about ChatGPT and Claude and all these other Geminis, and then it went from just hearing about it in the news to people informally experimenting with it on their own, to now what our IT department has done is really establish some allowable use case scenarios. There's a lot of concern around open source information, and we don't want people to be using this and sharing sensitive information that could be accessed by the public. So the city is now moving through an active strategy where I am now serving as a part of about 30 other individuals in various departments with the city that have the highest level of authorization using only Copilot, so Microsoft's Copilot as an AI mechanism. So that way we can kind of control the data information that's shared within that AI, you know, universe, without letting things potentially leak out to the public. And so that's kind of where the city of Escondido is currently at.
Awesome. It's great to hear, Tyler, about your experiences so far using AI tools. I could see the poll is in, and so some similar input from the group. We see that almost half of folks have at least some limited use of AI in their day-to-day work. A tenth have an active strategy already, and a lot are in the experimentation phase. So hopefully the content of the research is going to be really exciting for you all. Still a notable group that has answered that they're not using AI. So I think there could be some tidbits in here that are really interesting for you all that fall into that first category. But let's get into the research all together now.
Andrew, before we do, we have a question. Apologize. Already a question coming in. Probably answer it live. Not sure who wants to take it, but I'll read it out from Joe. How can organizations in conversation focus industries' responsibility integrate AI technologies while balancing the environmental costs of increased energy consumption with their core mission of protecting and sustaining the planet? Well, really good question.
Yeah, I think I'm going to let Tyler take that one. We sort of had discussions about this in the past.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really boils down to is not adopting an AI strategy just for AI's sake. This is not about just getting on board with the new trend. It's really taking a more thoughtful look at it because you do mention the resources that are currently required to leverage this new technology. So, as good stewards of this planet and Earth, we want to make sure that if we're utilizing this technology, which has a high energy demand, that we are doing so for very clear objectives and efficiency goals. What I would say is it's trading off one efficiency for an additional resource. So not looking at it as like a limitless, this is just an infinite resource that's available to us to answer any single question, but really thoughtfully considering. And I think that's what's going to help agencies develop a more thoughtful and productive AI policy within their workplace.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Totally agree. And I think that's a great segue into looking at the research altogether. So before we dive in, I want to share a quick note on the research itself. This was based on two surveys conducted late last year. One with community members who have participated in recreation programs recently, which should be really interesting for all of the folks on this call, and one with parks and recreation professionals from across our network. Together, this gives us a grounded view of AI expectation, usage, and readiness from both perspectives, and a holistic perspective on the industry. So we can move ahead here to discuss the common ground. The research makes one thing clear right away. When it comes to AI, communities and the organizations that serve them are starting more from common ground than we might expect. I think that last poll kind of alluded to that as well. Um, One of the clearest signals in the research is that AI is not new to either side of the field. Participants are already using AI regularly in their daily lives, and professionals, especially leaders and managers, are highly familiar with it as well. So that means this conversation isn't starting from awareness; it's starting from experience, which is really neat. This alignment makes sense when you look at the people and where people encounter AI. It's already a part of everyday life. So, you encounter AI in customer service, shopping, fitness apps, learning platforms, that sort of thing. And in learning tools, especially, AI often shows up in really supportive ways. So, adapting content or offering feedback to help people improve. Now, that would make this next stat feel a bit surprising. When 65% of participants say they've encountered AI during time of payment, they're likely counting a range of experiences from chatbots to smartphones to behind the scenes payment and support tools. The takeaway isn't that recreation platforms are highly advanced or should be. It's that expectations are already being shaped elsewhere, and people are starting to notice intelligence show up here as well. So where this really comes together is when we look at where people actually want AI to help. Participants prioritize convenience and clarity, finding the right programs, getting quick answers, staying informed. And professionals are most open to AI where it reduces friction, improves access, or supports decision making. So more internal facing tasks. In other words, there's more agreement here than disagreement, especially when AI is framed as a way to support people and not replace them. So the starting point is alignment, and familiarity is high, and there's some overlap here in priorities. And finally, there's a shared agreement on where AI. And so the next question is, if alignment exists, what's holding adoption back? So I'm going to open it up to another question, which you all can answer right in the chat as well. And I'm going to defer to you, Tyler, in a moment to hear from you on this too. But what AI tool do you currently use the most, and what do you use it for? Okay, so we're seeing a lot of the usual suspects in the chat: Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude for programming and operations templates mainly. This is really interesting because this is something that internally at Amelia we're thinking a lot about: is how can we further smoothen the operational tasks that are redundant, that have to happen in bulk. And programming is one of the first places you can look. Otter AI for meeting minutes, Placer AI to track park and facility use. So that's really neat. That comes up a few times. Gemini Research. Maybe I'll ask Tyler. Are you looking at using AI for some of these use cases as well? The rentals, the programming stuff. What are your thoughts there?
Are we interested in using it for rentals and programming? Is that what the question was?
Yeah. And are you actively doing so today?
So we're not actively using it. What I'm seeing in the chat is what a lot of people are using it for is helping it write program descriptions, analyze data, and that's where the city of at least myself within my role, are currently using this technology. One great case scenario that I had was we had an RFP for a recreation management software program, and we had 12 different proposals, each about 25 pages in length each. And there was probably about 8 to 10 different critical criteria that we were grading each 12 of these on. Now, going through 25 pages of 12 different RFPs take an extraordinary amount of time to piece through and parse through 10 different critical criteria to grade them upon. But what I was able to do is I saw someone put in here that they actually use Google's Notebook LM, which we didn't have a citywide policy of not using other AI, so I was able to leverage that technology to put all these PDFs in and say, here are the 10 different critical grading criteria that I want you to find and put in a table format. So as I'm looking through all of these proposals, I'm able to quickly get the answers that I want and need. Now, one thing that I will say is you have to go back and verify some of this information, especially if, because as we know, it looks like many of us have used AI, and I'm sure many of us have experienced the hallucinations or them attempting to give you an answer which is not 100% correct. So I think we still have some ways to go with it being totally trustworthy. But getting you a summary in this scenario was one of the most efficient uses that I've used AI for in recent times. But no, we are not currently using it to program per se or execute facility rentals. I think that would require maybe the use of an agent and working within Amelia to drive those kinds of efficiencies. And I just don't have the technological know-how yet on how to do that. And we don't really have a citywide policy on um, whether that's even okay or not. So before you develop any tools or policies, new workflows, I'd highly recommend that you understand within your structure of business or government who has that authority level and make sure that you get their buy-in, because you could spend a year's worth of work developing tools and policies within your internal department only to have it completely overridden by your IT department, and a single email. So start there if you're looking at, you know, really implementing long-term tools and policies.
Yeah, I love that answer. And speaking to that last point, I think Claude was mentioned in the chat as one of the tools that people are using. And just in the past, I want to say week, they've released so many feature updates. The rate of change is just unbelievable. And so I think you made a great point about, selecting where you choose to incorporate it first. There's a lot in here about, helping with narratives and social media marketing and public outreach. And those are great use cases that obviously people are already leaning into. But I think it is important to be careful about how much time you invest in the tooling, because it's so fast moving. Okay, I'm gonna move us along to the next section, and I think Ines is gonna take us away.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. So we're moving to discuss the gaps that matter. While there's clear alignment around expectations, the research also highlights some important gaps, which we can take a look at as signals of how organizations are and can thoughtfully navigate change. So on the organizational side, the story starts with a familiar pattern. Awareness is high. Most leaders and managers understand AI and follow it at least casually. But when we look at actual usage, nearly 40% of organizations aren't using any AI tools today. And where AI is in use, it's mostly behind the scenes, admin work, marketing, and basic data tasks. This is one of the most important gaps in the research. Knowing about AI doesn't automatically translate into action. Not because organizations are opposed to it, but because they're still deciding where AI actually belongs. And this brings us to the next question. What do you think most often slows AI adoption in recreation organizations today? You can take a moment here to answer the question. Perfect. So the results are in, and we see that the highest voted answer is privacy, ethical, or trust concerns. And we ask this question mainly because this mix of factors came through clearly in the research. There isn't one thing holding organizations back. It's a combination of clarity, capacity, trust, and competing priorities. For any mission-driven teams, taking a thoughtful wait-and-see approach is intentional, not passive. And these responses don't point to resistance. They reflect care, responsibility, and a desire to get AI right. Moving on to the future importance and present priorities. So this slide captures one of the most important dynamics in the research, and it's a very relatable one. Most professionals believe AI will matter, and fairly soon. Nearly 70% see it as necessary in the next 2 to 3 years. At the same time, far fewer see it as a top priority today. That gap isn't about pushing back on AI, it reflects something more practical. Organizations are balancing readiness, clarity, and competing priorities. What stood out to us is that this is actually a grounded approach. Teams want to move forward, but in ways that feel responsible, intentional, and aligned with real needs. And that perspective mirrors how we've approached this research and our thinking overall, acknowledging where AI is headed while being thoughtful about when and how it's applied. So progress doesn't have to be rushed to be real. And the next slide helps us see where caution increases across the field and why. When we look at organizations like yours, there's strong openness to AI when it supports work in the background, like data analysis, reporting, or communications. About 70% are open to those uses, but that comfort drops by about 20 points when AI moves closer to people, especially in areas like staff management or scheduling, where trust and judgment matter most. The key takeaway here is that this caution reflects responsibility, not resistance to progress. And organizations are being thoughtful about how AI affects people, relationships, and culture. And that care is what's shaping where boundaries are drawn. So I'll pass it over to Andrew for the next section.
Okay, so let's talk about this idea of community-led progress. So far, the research shows strong alignment, along with thoughtful boundaries about how AI is used. This final section focuses on what the data points toward next. And that's a community-led path forward, grounded in people and evidence, and centered on using AI in ways that genuinely support the work that you all do. So let's hop to the next slide and get into this a little more. When we step back and look at the research as a whole, one theme rises above everything, which is people. And the data doesn't point toward rapid transformation or chasing new tools. It points toward progress that protects access, relationship, trust within the community. and the things that make community recreation meaningful in the first place. And so what stood out to us is that it aligns strongly with how many of you already lead your organization, which is putting community needs first and pivoting your approach when the need rises, and it clearly supports your mission. The rest of this section focuses on what that kind of responsible, community-led, people-first progress can look like in practice. So let's take a look at that. What the research consistently points to is support for AI when it helps lower barriers to participation. And I know this term matters a lot in the Parks and Rec space. About 80% of organizations are open to using AI to help people access information more easily. So whether that's clearer guidance, navigation, or language support. And at the same time, 87% of community members say experiences still need to feel personal and supportive, even as we introduce technology more and more. And so taken together, the message is pretty clear that AI is most welcome when it reduces friction and expands access, without losing the human connection that communities ultimately value. And so if we move ahead, as we look at how AI shows up in community settings, the research makes another thing very clear, which is that trust is non-negotiable. When we asked community members to rank their concerns, data privacy and security came out as the top concern, followed closely by maintaining human connection. This is neat because I'll point out that that rang through in the poll that we just did all together, where data privacy and security floated to the top of the list. Accuracy and reliability also ranked consistently high for respondents. So these aren't abstract worries, they're the foundations of community relationships. If people don't trust how their information is handled or feel that technology is replacing human care, participation ultimately starts to erode. And so that's why, it's our perspective that responsible progress isn't about asking communities to accept trade-offs. It's about using technology in ways that protect trust and strengthen the relationships that keep people engaged. And so this next idea is about the last signal in the research. And it brings back this concept of capacity. Community members aren't asking for less human interaction. They're asking for more of it, and they recognize that staff time is often stretched thin. About 70% support AI being used for repetitive behind the scene tasks when it helps staff spend more time supporting people directly. That's an important distinction that we feel because AI is welcomed when it protects what people value the most, which is relationships, care, meaningful experiences. And in that sense, giving time back to staff isn't just an operational benefit, it becomes a community benefit. And so this can be taken as reassuring news. People aren't looking for technology to replace the human role. They want more time, more care, and I would say more connection with the people who serve them. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Ines.
Thank you, Andrew. So from what we've seen today in this research, there's one thing clear that we can all agree on. Organizations don't need more AI noise. They need AI that's practical, secure, and outcome-driven. And that's exactly where Amelia stands. As we wrap up, I wanted to reinforce that Amelia's AI positioning is fully aligned with the research we explored today. We believe in being intentional with AI, applying it where it drives meaningful, measurable outcomes for community organizations. And this means leveraging AI natively through our AI assistant, but also through industry-leading partners for more specific capabilities. And our approach is grounded in 3 core pillars: security, transparency, and sustainability. And if you'd like to learn more about our AI practices and capabilities, I invite you to visit the link shared here and explore how we're bringing this approach to life within Amelia. And to conclude today's webinar, I'd like to invite you with this final thought. When you put all of this together, responsible progress becomes less about technology choices and more about stewardship. Start whenever your communities feel supported, use AI to remove barriers and protect access, and always invite people for a better experience that is rooted in trust and transparency. And this is what responsible progress looks like in community recreation. Thank you all for joining us today and being part of this conversation. We truly appreciate your time and engagement. We'll now open the floor for any questions.
All right, so Mike, you jump back in. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to use the Q&A functionality or the chat as well. Want to get as much engagement as possible here. All right, we already have one. This one's going to go to for Tyler. I'm curious, how do you involve your staff in decisions about new tools without overwhelming them? Oh, good one.
Yeah, excuse me. It has to be a measured approach, right? And we're not even necessarily talking about AI. We're talking about any technology or new process, new workflows. And the bigger your team, it's like a big ship. It takes longer to turn it around and pivot. So I think having clear goals and expectations on what you can realistically achieve is has to be your foundational. That has to be start. You have to know what your capacity is for developing and implementing new technology of any type. So what I would say is if your organization hasn't developed an AI strategy, that's fine. But look at existing technology that exists out there. I mean, some of the feedback that people want from the customer side are automated communications. And there are many different email and texting communication platforms that currently exist out there that will sync up with your recreation management software provider so that you can provide automated emails. So one thing, full disclosure, the City of Escondido's recreation management software is Amelia. We use SmartRec, and we have a communication tool that we use to schedule at the beginning of a season. I schedule automatic communication so that when someone enrolls into a class, they automatically get a receipt through Amelia, but as that class is about to begin, there's a reminder sent out. Hey, this class is about to begin, and it's a personalized message. You can put in placeholders that'll say, hey, Tyler, your yoga class is going to begin tomorrow at X time. Please make sure that you bring, all the appropriate equipment that you need, and we're looking forward to having you. And then on the last day of class, since we know they enroll over and over again in these classes, we let them know, hey, today is the last class of this session. Please go ahead and fill out this survey so that we can know how we did. And here's a link to re-enroll into the next class. Now, that's not a personalized link to that exact next class session, but it takes them back to the Amelia storefront so that they can re-enroll in the next session. And so that's not an AI tool. That's just leveraging current technology. So I'm just providing like a use case scenario on how you don't have to necessarily be looking at AI to solve every problem right now, and especially if you haven't even solved some of those layup ones that you can probably achieve right now. So that's how I would think about it. Set a realistic timeline, look at technology that already exists, that's not kind of emerging, that's been established for a while, and start with establishing those before you just dive in headfirst into AI.
Thanks, Tyler. I love that. I love the question. I love the answer. Yeah, AI is great as a technology, but not doesn't mean it's the answer to every single question. Okay, we have more questions coming in. I'm going to do my best to try and get these in order of when they came in. So, from Joe, I believe Tyler, you're up again. How did your park district develop its policy on the use of AI, and what factors or guidelines influence the final approach? And would there be an opportunity to view the policy that you did create? Well, loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, the policy is still being established as we speak. So, as I kind of mentioned during that first poll, the city of Escondido has gone through every phase of that in the last couple of years. And when there was an article that came out fairly recently within this year that was talking about kind of the risks of putting not having a policy. So that directive was really led by our city's IT department. And because that's where the authority level is. And that's why I recommended, look, don't go rogue on this. Make sure that you are inviting and engaging those decision makers that have the authority, because you could be spending a long time on developing a policy that's completely overridden in a matter of minutes. So I'd start there with your organization. Make sure that you identify who the decision makers are, get their buy-in, and if they are so busy that they can't even think of it, get it on that roadmap. Okay, well, in Q4 this year, can we talk about it? Because this is something that we need to get ahead of and establish a policy on, even if it's saying, look, you are not to use any AI whatsoever within your work environment, because it can put your agency at risk if you don't. And knowing that these language learning models are sharing information with the public. So if someone wants to do some digging into sensitive information and someone is actively using something like a Chat GPT or a Gemini or Grok, whatever, to ask very sensitive information, you could be putting your agency at risk of leaking some sensitive information. So that's kind of where the decision was all driven from. I think establishing this policy is it was a security risk. And that's a great way that you can spin it if you have a decision maker that's really hesitant about developing a policy or a strategy. It started with it being a security risk. And then what it led to is, well, how can we make this technology secure? And the final decision was, well, we are already paying into the Microsoft and Office interface. Let's just route everything through Copilot as a pilot program. And again, establishing just some select users that have access to this technology, and making sure that we can understand as an entire city, this is an entire city cohort, how we can leverage the technologies, because we're not siloing ourselves off of, well, this process only works for Parks and Rec Department. We believe that there's strategies that will work across the entire city. And so that's how we are approaching it. And I think it's a good one.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tyler. All right, I got one in the chat from Matisse. How do you'll see the future of AI in parks and recreation arena? So this could be for anyone, maybe a couple of millions. Give Tyler a little break, grab a drink of water. Who wants to take this one?
Michael, could I have you just reread the question?
Yeah, how do you see the future of AI in the parks and recreation arena?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I'll riff off some of the stuff that Tyler just said. Obviously, the previous question was about policy, but I think the answer varies a ton once you've nailed down your level of comfortability uh, with AI internally, because what you choose you want to leverage AI for, whether that, things related to writing, like on the marketing side, or if it's things related to program building, more on the operational side, uh, it's actually going to have an impact on the tools you choose to use. Because one thing we're seeing with the major names in this space is they're all striving towards their own identity, and tools are uniquely good at certain things. Some are built to act in an agentic way where they're doing tasks on your behalf. There's other tools that are optimizing for the research use case, for the creative writing use case. And so the way it unfolds is, I think, going to be kind of fragmented on a case-to-case basis, because it depends on what tasks your organization feels it most needs to delegate to to AI tools. So that would be my perspective.
Perfect. Inez, not sure if you want to add anything to that, or did Andrew nail it on the head there for you?
Yeah, for sure. What Tyler and Andrew answered here makes a lot of sense. And if we had to prioritize one key area is to focus on impact, not tools necessarily. Starting by identifying areas where there's repetitive tasks, administrative bottleneck, and go from there. That can lead into a bigger, more a higher impact roadmap there. So yeah, definitely something to look into.
Thank you. Thank you, Inez. Thank you, everyone. All right. So we have a few questions that are kind of closely related. So we're going to combine them into one. This comes from Aaron. Can you share any specific AI use cases that are currently being used by Parks and Rec agencies or other government agencies that you find particularly interesting? Not sure who wants to take that on. Maybe Tyler.
Sorry, I was responding to another question. Can you repeat? Is it in the chat? Is it from?
It's not in the chat. It's in the
Oh,
Q&A from Aaron. Just basically sharing any specific use cases for AI that are currently being used in Parks and Rec or other government agencies.
I mean, it kind of segues into another one that I was responding to. It looked like Tabitha asked some top three paid programs. So I was going to say my top one is Canva. Now, I hear a lot about Canva being an AI tool. I use it as a marketing tool first, and the caveat that I'll say to using Canva for AI is I think where we see a 22% of populations are hesitant to incorporate AI for people-focused tasks. And I think what that stems from is our crave for authenticity. And that's where a lot of hesitation of incorporating AI comes from is we don't want fake. We don't want fake images, especially within parks and recreation. When I oversee the recreation guide, and one of the things that I made sure is that we use authentic images. We're not using stock photos because the community wants to see them self-represented in your marketing. Even if they don't want pictures of them taken, and trust me, I know it's hard to get someone to take a photo anymore, but they want to know that that's real. That's not AI generated. So Canva is a good one just for marketing in general and using all of its many templates, which I'm sure AI created, but using that AI template to create something authentic. The other one I was going to say is Placer.ai. And that allows your agency or economic development department, they pay for that technology. So they want to see where people are moving and spending money in the city. So, but what Placer AI tool is a geolocation tool where it takes cell phone data and it will allow you to basically see where people are coming from. So if you wanted to know, let's say you're hosting a tournament, where are people going for lunch after that tournament? Or where are they coming from to that tournament? What are our most popular parks and at what times of day? And so you can kind of create a profile of usership where you really didn't have before in those sort of passive recreational activities. And so that's another great tool. And those are other great use case scenarios that we currently use within the city of Escondido.
Love it. Thanks, Tyler. All right. So we have Anne in the chat and also Tabitha asking a very similar question. Have you found any courses that you recommend for teams that are looking into AI and how to create prompts and what to use for what? For example, using Claude for data and Gemini for graphics, etc.
Um, if that's for me again.
It could be for anyone, but I
Um,
mean, it's
Well, so there's two resources that I highly recommend people get in touch with. One is a podcast that I listen to. It's the AI Daily Brief. As you're considering new and emerging technologies and trends, this is a great, it used to be like 15 minutes. Now it's gone up to about 30 minutes, but it's been a great way for me to keep my finger on the pulse of where AI is headed and some issues surrounding it. Um, as this technology emerges and develops. And one of the things that they're hosting is, I don't know if people have heard of Claudebot, but they're actually doing that's a tool that was developed recently where you can essentially anyone can kind of create their own agent. So if you're inclined and you have no restrictions, they actually have a Claudebot camp where you can learn how to use this new technology. Um, so I would say check out the AI Daily Brief, and if you're interested in those types of start there so that you can learn about different tools that they're recommending that you can use. The other one that I subscribe to that's really government focused is a government technology newsletter. And I receive, I think it's weekly emails from them about updates and how people are using technology, but a focus on AI in government services. Now, this isn't Parks and Rec focused, but again, there's a lot of spillover in how government agencies use AI and technology. So that's another great resource I encourage everyone subscribe to so that you can stay on the beat.
Tyler, thanks so much for that. Amazing. So we'll give you a little rest, I promise. This next one's for Andrew and or Inez want to take it. What does Amelia's AI roadmap look like for the next year? Ooh, that's a good one. Putting them on the spot. Love it.
Thank you, Michael. So right now, we're being very deliberate about our AI roadmap. Rather than committing to a long list of future features, we're focusing on validating impact with the capabilities we've already introduced. For example, the AI assistant, Cecilia, and our other very specific capabilities that we've developed through industry-leading partnerships. So our priority is to ensure these foundations are delivering measurable value before expanding further. But as we look ahead, roadmap decisions will be driven by three main things. The first one being a clear operational ROI for customers, alignment with our core recreation and membership focus, and of course, maintaining our standards around security, transparency, and sustainability. Those are our three core pillars when building any new capability. So instead of chasing AI trends, I would say we're taking a measured approach, scaling intentionally, transparently, based on real outcomes and customer readiness.
Wonderful. Andrew, do you want to add to that? You came off mute.
Yeah, well, and I was just going to add to what Inez said that we have this policy, I would say, internally that we refer to as we listen before we code. And the whole idea is we lean heavily on customer feedback to determine, into the future what our roadmap is going to look like. So when it comes to AI, Inez mentioned Cecilia, which is can be used equally by residents as it can be Parks and Rec staff. And I think what's great about it as it constantly evolves and as we learn how to better train it to help folks along is it contributes to winning back time for leaders in the Parks and Rec space to be able to spend time on the community, not focus on the edge cases of people encountering confusion with the registration process or with other technological experiences, which I think is a huge win, and it's only going to get better as the model improves.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. All right. Any other questions? Got through quite a few. Not sure if anyone wants to ask any last questions before we close things up for our session today. Nope. Looks like that is all. Wonderful. We'll move things along then. Listen, it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to have you all here with us. we definitely appreciate it. We definitely appreciate the interaction. I had a great time. We know we can all do more together. There's tons of more webinars coming. We promise. That is our promise to you. If you want to be in touch or get in touch, all things Amelia would love to connect, shake some hands virtually, of course, or in person at the next trade show. Look forward to it. Thank you guys so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.